Did you know about the payments?
Later on, I knew. Later on. But you have to understand, Ainsley, what he did, and they weren't taken out of campaign finance. That's a big thing. That's a much bigger thing. Did they come out of the campaign? They didn't come out of the campaign. They came from me.
All right, so the president's saying the payments came from him, and it wasn't campaign cash, but if the intent was to influence the election, as some prosecutors have been telling me, is that in itself a crime? I'm not a lawyer, but I think we really need a good one. Unfortunately, we have a good one. Criminal defense attorney Caroline Polisi. This has moved on me here, so if you'll indulge my stupidity, I thought it was a big deal if you were using campaign finance funds to do stuff like this. If the president is using his own, then what's the problem?
Okay, so you're not stupid because it is actually quite complicated. In the realm of campaign finance law violations, it's sort of split into two separate categories, contributions and expenditures. And this changing story we're hearing from Trump indeed makes it sound like he wants this to fall into the expenditure camp of sort of the realm of possible violations because, as you noted, there is no constitutional limit on the amount of money you can spend on your own campaign. There is, however, a reporting requirement. So I think what Trump wants to move this into sort of the less bad crime. The more serious offense is the one that Cohen pleaded guilty to, which is an illegal contribution over the legal limit. So Trump could be seen both as an aider and abettor in that crime, in the crime that Michael Cohen stood up before federal court and the public to say that he made this contribution at the behest of the president. So the issue here, though, and why it's different from the Obama sort of, slap on the wrist fine, is that this was a knowing and willful violation. Because they did it in such a secretive manner, either way you cut it, if you're looking at the expenditure category or the contribution category, this is a criminal offense.
All right. Let's say this ends up being part of a Mueller report. That's a stretch, and again, it might not be. But obviously, Congress can do whatever it wants with whatever report Mueller provides. For example, Mueller isn't going to be the one recommending impeachment. It's up to the people who read that report. Would that be, in and of itself, enough, if it were in the final report, to get some going in that direction? Because it seems like a stretch to me, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, absolutely, they're already talking about it, but the question really is, what does Congress believe qualifies as a high crime and misdemeanor? That is the text in the Constitution for an impeachable offense. And the way I always describe it is that if you look at criminal offenses versus impeachable offenses, they're a Venn diagram. And there is, of course, overlapping territory there, but there's a lot of not overlapping territory. So the question is, what standard are they going to hold the president to? If indeed he did commit a crime, and it's looking like, based on all the statutory language, he did commit a crime. But how serious of a crime is it? Does it get you to the level of impeachable offense, high crime and misdemeanor?
Just help me with this. And I'm sorry I'm slow here, but I don't see the crime part. Now, believe me, I don't carry water or anyone here. I just want to understand, is the crime that, to hear Cohen tell the way it was covered in the media, the president knew, and this was part of a strategy to influence an election, that if this had come to light, it would have been a disaster. He would have lost, even though, given the Access Hollywood tape, sometime earlier, that's hard to believe. But that he was altering the election, and a payoff was the means by which he did that. I don't know.
Well, okay, so the way the law views it, Neil, the moment that money was transferred to a Karen McDougal or a Stormy Daniels, it was from Michael Cohen, right? He took out a home equity line of credit. Now, who directed him to make that payment? Donald Trump, okay? So we're now in the realm of a campaign contribution. Trump directing, and it's not that different from the Dinesh D'Souza violation of straw man. Think of it like a straw man. He's funneling money, even if he did pay it back, to the campaign for the purpose of influencing the election, and doing it in a secretive way such that shows his consciousness of guilt. So absolutely, there's a crime.
But consciousness of guilt isn't the same thing as, doing something that would materially affect an election or hiding something from the Federal Election Commission, right? I mean, this is not campaign funds touched again.
Absolutely. And the fact that it wasn't campaign funds touched means nothing. He's confused. Again, what I think he's trying to do in the context of saying that he did reimburse it, he's trying to put this on him, saying, look, this was a campaign expenditure that I used out of my own pocket since I reimbursed Michael Cohen. And if you look at it that way, it is an expenditure, and the Supreme Court has ruled that there are no limits on your own expenditure for your own campaign. So he's trying to sort of spin that angle. But even so, Neil, even if you look at it from that context, there's a reporting requirement. He would have had to report that payment, which he did not. It's a crime.
How would it have been reported?
In his papers, when he submits it.
$150,000 to pay off a stripper. You know
well, exactly. I mean, exactly. It's laughable. It's laughable because he clearly was trying to hide it because there's no way he was going to report it.
All right. I know I'm going along with you, and my producer's going to go crazy, but you're so good here. But I just want to understand this. Wouldn't he have more problems, not so much with those payments, but the back and forth, and he's been inconsistent on them. At first saying he knew nothing about them, then he did. At first saying that, it was Michael Cohen calling the shots and signing the checks and deciding who get what, and it was him.
Yeah. So again, the back and forth, the story, the back and forth. Just to clarify, there is nothing illegal about a catch and kill practice. There would be nothing illegal about this. It would be sleazy. It would be amoral, and people would say it's just bad practice, but it wouldn't be illegal if it hadn't been done so close to the election for the express purpose of influencing the election, of hiding this information, silencing these women, because he knew it was going to have an effect on his campaign. So that's the issue. That's why it gets into a campaign finance law violation, and it's the timing of it.
All right. Well, I think I understand a little bit better, but I'm very, very confused. You lawyers, you really tie things up in knots.
I know.
No, but you do it very well.
Sorry.
I will say
Sorry.
that. Thank you very, very much. I do
Thanks,
appreciate it.